Hey fellow foodies, it's Faye from faysfood.com, and today I'm sharing my recipe for overnight fluffy cinnamon rolls. So one of the keys to why these rolls are so fluffy is because we're using a starter. So in a small bowl, I'm just combining some flour and water, and I'm giving it a whisk. And I'm gonna microwave this for about a minute and a half. But the key is I want to stop and whisk every 25 seconds. So once we have our starter microwaved, what we can do is combine the milks and egg yolks, vanilla, in the bowl of our stand mixer along with the starter. And you want to mix the starter until it dissolves on a low speed. And once the starter dissolves, you can go ahead and begin to add in the flour a bit at a time. You're going to add a little bit more than half. I'm using cake flour and bread flour. I want the gluten from the bread flour, which is about 14 to 15% protein. But I want the tenderness I'm going to get from the cake flour, which is about 9% protein. So you want to mix this on a low speed. And we're just going to add enough flour for now. And you can see I forgot to switch from the paddle to the dough hook, but don't make that same mistake. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it is what it is. Okay, so you can see I'm just adding in a bit of flour at a time. I'm going to make sure to scrape the bowl throughout the process. And I'm going to cover this with a damp towel and let it sit for about 20 minutes. Alright, so after 20 minutes, this is what it looked like. You can see there's a little bit of bubbles forming, which is good. So I'm going to turn this on a low speed. I'm going to add in my sugar and my salt. And then I'm going to add in more flour. And what the dough should look like is we're looking for a shaggy dough, but it should come off the sides of the bowl. So it should still be a little wet, but it should be, formed enough so that it's not sticking to the sides of the bowl. And at this point, it absorbed all the flour. We can add in the butter a bit at a time. I'm using some unsalted butter, about 6 tablespoons of it, and I'm just adding in a tablespoon at a time. Okay, so I have my well floured surface here. I'm going to dump the dough onto the table. You can see it's still kind of sticky. Which is why you want to make sure to have a well-floured surface. And now what we're going to do is I'm just going to knead it for a little bit. I'm going to sprinkle the top with a little bit of flour. I'm not going to overwork it at all. I'm just going to knead it for about a minute. You can see you can see how soft the dough already is. So we really don't want to overwork it and take the softness away from the dough, because that's what's going to lead to a soft roll. But we just want to work it enough so that we can handle it. About a minute is fine. Alright, so now we have our kneaded dough. And all I'm going to do is take it. I sprayed the same bowl I used to mix it with some cooking spray so it doesn't stick, and I just placed it back in there. I'm gonna cover it with a damp towel and let it sit for about an hour. After about an hour, I'm gonna dump it back out to a well-floured surface, sprinkle the top with some flour, fluff it out, and begin to just use my hands to work it into a rectangular shape. You really don't need a rolling pin. The dough is very easy to work with, it's very soft, and you don't want to overwork the dough with the rolling pin either. So I definitely recommend just patting it out like so. There's really no science to it. As long as it looks like somewhat a rectangle, you're good to go. Alright, and then you can add your pads of butter in there. And now I'm going to sprinkle in the brown sugar cinnamon mixture, which is where all the flavor is at. This is going to make a gooey, delicious center. It's really good. Right, so now that is ready to go, and really it doesn't matter if you roll it horizontally or vertically. I think the key is just take your time and roll it tightly, but not too tightly. I guess the word for it would be you want to roll it snug. And then the last thing is I'm going to roll it onto the seam so that it's, closed and that they don't burst while baking. So I'm using this metal food grade string. You can use kitchen twine or dental floss that is unflavored and unscented, but really string is the way to go to cut these. You're going to get a nice clean cut. You're not going to push down on the dough like you would otherwise. And then you can just place them into a well-buttered dish. I'm using a 9x13 Pyrex dish. You really want to keep them snug like this so that they bake up nice and fluffy. I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap and refrigerate it overnight. And then the next day, we can have some fresh cinnamon rolls in the morning. There's nothing better than that, I'm telling you. So I prepped my egg wash. It's just some heavy cream, cinnamon, vanilla, and egg yolks. And then I have my cream cheese glaze here. Obviously you can make it thicker or thinner, but to me this is the perfect consistency. You can see it's pourable, you can drizzle it on, it's beautiful. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and egg wash these rolls up. The key with the egg wash is you want to make sure that there's no puddles because that area will burn. So you really want to spread it nice and even on there. Okay, I'm going to bake this at 425 for 5 minutes. We'll turn it down to 350 and bake it off for about 40 to 45 minutes. You want the internal temperature to be 180 degrees. And then once you take it out of the oven, what you can do is wait a few minutes. I'd say no more than 3 or 4 minutes. And then you can go ahead and pour that luscious cream cheese glaze over the top. Cinnamon rolls are by far my favorite fall, item. You could have it for brunch, dessert, snack, whatever. I'm gonna make sure to get all the nooks and crannies as well. Remember, this full recipe will be on facefood.com. Everything will be on there. The instructions, the full ingredients, all of it. The thing I love about this recipe is you can see it's really easy. You'll have cinnamon rolls the next day, but not only is it easy, it yields such a delicious cinnamon roll and the perfect texture in my opinion. It's gooey, soft, fluffy. You have to serve this warm, it's like a law. So serve this warm and see what I'm talking about. Give this recipe a try. Remember, the full recipe will be on facefood.com. Make sure you like this video. Please comment below if you have any comments or questions. I love to hear from you guys. Subscribe to this channel for more great videos on the way. And until next time, you have a wonderful day.
I can take it there cause you know I need it. It really ain't fair cause you know I mean it. You got all of me at just one time. Stay here with me, we'll be fine.